Nikon R10, that's what we're going to look at today. I'm going to call it Nikon. I know some people call it Nikon, some people call it Nikon. Tomato. What am I going to tell you? You know, it is what it is. It's you know, everyone knows what I'm talking about when I talk about Nikons. And here it is, lent to me by the lovely Stephanie Sean Smith. Thank you, Stephanie, for lending me this camera. Right, where should we start? Well, normally we start with loading the battery. You get a coin or whatever, you undo this thing, you undo the screw. I've got it so I can just grip it with my finger, and then this whole bit comes out. I'd like to give a special welcome to anyone who's bought one of these and is looking at the replay in order to get some instructions on how to use this. We're going to go on the deepest dive into this camera. I don't care if we're here all night long. Battery compartment comes off, battery cover comes off, and the batteries are loaded into one of these. It's a battery holder. Quite often you get these cameras come up for sale on eBay without these battery holders because some numpty has put them in the camera with the batteries in and left it for 10 years and the batteries have leaked, and they're trying to find another one of these. Very difficult to find one of those. Maybe you can 3D print it. Anyway, they go into the handle, easy peasy, and the cover goes on top, and you just screw that in like so, and you can tighten it with a coin. I'm not going to bother because this is good enough. And there you go, Nikon R10. Good night, everyone. Oh dear, I crack myself up sometimes, don't I? Right, let's go. Firstly, after the batteries have loaded, this L, that is the trigger lock. You push it in, and it's not left and right, it's lock and run. So push the R in, and we're ready to hit the trigger here. Let's have a bit of audio on that, see what it sounds like. Nice, ooh, nice healthy sound there. So that's the trigger and the battery. Next, well, I'm just going to show you. This is actually a function that probably no one will use because you need to have hardware for it. This is a remote control unit. So you can plug that in. You can trigger this camera from remotely. If you plug something into there, not many cameras have that. In fact, let's have a look at the some of the accessories that you can get on this thing. There we go. This photo sent to me by Andre Hagas. And thank you very much, Andre, for all the help and advice you gave me about this. So this here, that's the remote control cable. This cable here is plugs into here, and it's the tape recorder sync cable. So this thing is not a sound camera, but you can get it to trigger a tape recorder by plugging this into one end with this wire here and the other end into a tape recorder, so you can start and stop the camera and the tape at the same time. Interesting feature there. What else? Okay, let's just knock out some of the easy ones first. This is the battery indicator lamp. You push this button here and this light comes on. The light doesn't seem to be working because these are perfectly good batteries and the light doesn't come on when I press that. Never mind, whatever. I know the batteries are good. Anyway, let's get on to this. This is the film speed selector. As we can see, it will give you single frame SF, 18 frames a second, 24 frames a second, and 54 frames a second. Interesting spread of speeds there. And here is the light meter compensation dial. So you can get it. It's very difficult to turn this thing. But if you want the auto light metering to go up a stop or down a stop, then you just switch it to one of these. Strange that they have it along with the film speed selector. By the way, you have to press this button in to change the film speed, which is a sort of a safety thing, I suppose. Right, now the film compartment. Yes, let's open up the film compartment and have a look. There's some very, very interesting stuff going on in here. As you hear, whoa, hey. No, the real business of it is here. Firstly, this kind of springy thing gets pushed in when you put a cartridge in. And at the same time, look at this lever here. That is the film ISO detector. And as you can see, it's not those little buttons that you have on some cameras. It's a lever, a bit like on the Canon 814 auto zoom. which means that it can meter all the way from ISO like 50D all the way down to 500 by sliding this thing down there. In fact, I can show you, I'm sure you all know about this already, but this gap here, that's what tells the cartridge what ISO film you've put into it. Not this particular cartridge, because that's a reloadable, but that gap there, that lever goes down it. Nice little system. It can automatically do that. It can automatically detect any commercial Super 8 cartridge. Down here, you can see it just about, that little dot there by the thing. That's a pin that gets pushed in if you've put film in that does not require the daylight filter. So if you push that in, the daylight filter goes away. The normal default position of this is with the daylight filter in. That's with the orange filter inside. And there's a few ways to cancel it. There's to push that in by the cartridge, which usually just does the job. And you can also stick something into this slot on here. There it is. See, there's the filter key that you're supposed to put into the top of it there. However, I have this one from a UMIG, and that slots into there. There we go. Goes into there. And if you push it down, that will cancel the daylight filter as well. There we go. Take it out. If you don't have one of those, by the way, if you don't have one of these, you can cut an old credit card or a store loyalty card to approximately the right dimensions, and that will do the job. So little tip for you there. If you don't have, if you want a bit more control, of course, you can put a daylight filter onto the front. You can screw it right on there. The filter diameter is 67 millimeters. The filter thread size is 67. Here I have a 62 millimeter one with a little adapter, so it'll fit on there. Doesn't give me much vignetting. It's all right. And of course, you use the daylight filter, everyone, when you're filming tungsten film outdoors in daylight, or indoors in daylight. Don't forget that. On top as well, we have this. This is a simple shoe. What can you put into the shoe? Well, you could put a microphone in there. You could put a movie light in there, or you can put a flash in there. You can fix a flash to the top, and with this camera, you can plug it right into this flash socket here. Let's have some fun with this. Let's switch it on first and get that amazing old flash noise. Listen to this. Hey, let's see. I put it onto single frame. Then you have, of course, the camera here with the flash on it, and let's take a picture. Probably didn't come out in the on the stream, but probably just a white flash there. But yes, you can take single pictures. In fact, listen to that shutter. That is a, hang on, let's switch off that thing. That's a Nikon special, isn't it? That noise. It sounds like a proper SLR camera, doesn't it? Because that's what Nikon did. They made proper SLR cameras, and after all. So yes, you can straight away, already you can do about 3 times more things on this camera than you can on lots of other Super 8 cameras. You can take flash pictures. I mean, this already puts it into the top, say, 6 of all Super 8 cameras. Right, the lens. Of course, this is a Nikon lens, and it is a mother effer. It is a really, really good lens. I would put this up there with the Canon 814 XLS, this lens. I mean, Nikon are the lens people, aren't they? It's like, you know, they didn't want to make a Super 8 camera, which was a piece of trash. They really wanted it up to the level of their best SLR cameras, and this is a damn good lens. In fact, let's have a look at, oh well, before we go any further, here's the focus, as you can see, and it's got a 10 times zoom. Nice. And if you flip this here, there's a macro. Just simple as that. So regular shooting and macro shooting, and we're going to see some footage from that. In fact, let's see how it looks through the eyepiece. Here we go. So that's the zoom, the 10 times zoom, and as you can see in the center, it has a focus aid, and that's how you do it. You go in and out of focus, and you see the picture splits left and right. In fact, let's see that in close-up. Let's see in close-up how that looks. And this is the case for all the cameras that have this system. See? They get displaced. The picture gets all crooked. And then when you got the picture straight like that, you know your focus is good. Okay, let's talk about exposure for a second here. Now this EE lock and manual, this is your exposure button. And the idea is you pull it out and then you can turn it and it will open and close your iris. Easy peasy. Push it back in and it becomes automatic. However, this camera has a problem. Yes, that's true. In my camera there is problem. And that problem is the exposure is stuck. It is stuck on F8. So look, that's stuck there. It doesn't matter how much I change the manual or auto. It does not make any difference. It is stuck in this position. Now there's worse f-stops to be stuck in. Here's another camera. Had the same problem. Exactly the same problem. And it was also stuck on F8. Close up there. So this might be some kind of issue that these cameras have if you're ever thinking of buying one. Watch out, because you might find the exposure stuck. It's probably just the age. Maybe something needs lubricating, something got old, whatever. So I turn this knob, I pull it out, I turn it, and this is all that happens. See? There, see? Tiny bit of play. And it doesn't even seem to translate to anything that I can see through the lens. So, it is what it is. However, this is such a great camera that we cannot write it off just because it's stuck on an f-stop like that. Flying O says, good spot to be stuck at. That's right. F8, don't be late. That's what they said. F8, don't be late. If you stick on F8, you won't be late getting your shot because you can just film it. Check this bit out here. See this? What's this? This is something that very few cameras have. Only the real top ones have. The Canon 814, the Bollier. Does the Niso even have it? I'm not even sure. This is a variable shutter adjustment. Yay! Which is this button right here. And it works. This one, you push in and turn it. And the shutter blades change to a different angle. Now, am I going to show you all what shutter angles are all about? I might as well. I'm here, you're here. You know, it's a good opportunity to do it. Okay, this thing has a changeable shutter blade. So imagine this is the blade inside the camera. I've done this before on my show, but I like this piece of kit here. So this is the shutter. It spins around 18 times a second or 24 frames a second or however many times a second that you've specified. And most cameras, that's it. You know, it spins around and that's all you get. However, this one can go from something like this, 160 degrees, to 80 degrees. This is, by the way, the amount of degrees that are open, not closed. And then it can go even down to 40 degrees. So it gives you 3 different shutter angles. And the best thing about that is it gives you a lot of flexibility when you do some when you have too much light and you want to stop it down a bit. It does other things as well, which I'll get into. Let's have a look at what happens inside the viewfinder when that happens. So look on the right hand side there, over here. See, when you turn that knob, this goes down. So that's closed completely. That's quarter shutter, half shutter, open shutter. Okay. When you're filming, see it has FO and FI. That stands for fade out and fade in. So when you're filming and you push it up for FO, that's fade out. That means the shutter will slowly close automatically. You push it down, that's fade in. So you start filming with that in that position, and then you let go, and it will fade in. I'll show you that again inside the eyepiece. There you go. That's all automatic. Fading out. And again, when you want to fade in, there it goes. Should we see how that translates to an actual piece of film? Why not? Let's have a look here. Here we go. Here's a fade out. Lovely rose. And the shutter closes. Boom, boom, boom. See? Automatic fade. And now it's fade in again. Lovely. See? A nice smooth fade. Don't have to do it with the iris or anything. Very nice. It's all a bit slowed down. Now, there's a lot of other features which can happen when you have control over your shutter. For instance, we're talking dissolves. We're talking double exposure. We're talking the camera can run backwards, which is no mean feat for a Super 8 camera. And now I'd like to get even deeper into the function of this thing, how it does these amazing things. In fact, let's see a dissolve. So dissolve basically happens when you fade it out, run it backwards, and then fade in again on the next scene. Okay? And that produces something like this, which is a lovely in-camera dissolve. Way, you can do it in 10 seconds on Premiere. And here's a double exposure you can do as well, fading backwards and then just filming. 200t there. Now, in-camera dissolves are something I do not like to do generally because the camera's old. It could get stuck while doing this. The cartridges don't like it. It's something that you can do in Premiere. You don't have to do it on the film anymore. It's basically best not to do any fancy nonsense like this these days with these cameras, because who knows, you could get stuck halfway and then you've got a stuck shutter. Then you're screwed. Now, how does it do all this stuff? Super 8's not supposed to go backwards. It's got all sorts of safeguards to stop you doing that. Well, let's go on here. Here we go. Now, this was given to me by Andre Hargers. Thank you, Andre. Okay, is this clear? Good, we can move on. So what we're looking at here is the gate of the camera. In fact, let me hold it up live here. And there we go. Now, that bit that's circled there is very important. Okay, and I'm gonna quote some of Andre's messages to me. Let's see it in action first. So this is running forward. See, that's running forward. And then look down here when you switch it there, when you switch to backward, look what happens. And that's actually running the other way. You can't see it because it's too fast. Okay, so this is a normal camera. This is a Minolta. See, there's nothing down here. Most Super 8 cameras just have a claw up there, which pulls the film forward in only that direction. Nothing down here. The Nikon's got this thing, which are called the stop pins. And it's going to change again when I go from forward to backwards. And the reason they do that we have these things, I'm just gonna quote Andre here. He said, the brilliant yet simple mini ramps near the film gate, that's this, are essential to forcing the film in the proper place for sharp images. The stop pins are fixed position. Either one is protruding depending on the rewind or forward switch. The stop pin makes sure the film is steady during the exposure. By design, when the film is running, advanced continuously, and the puller's a bit strong, it will move the film when the shutter is open. You know, you get those smeary streaks. This happens when the pickup torque is too strong due to aging or lost setting. He said the mini ramps here, just here, and you see that line there? Yeah, so it's basically there's a ramp there that stops the film from touching the gate when it's going through, and these pins will enable the film to smoothly go in either direction, up or down. He said a full understanding of the air channel principle of Super 8 is important. Super 8 doesn't have a contact-making pressure plate. The cartridge has a plastic half which interlocks with the metal gate with knobs in the camera and thus forms a channel through which the film flies, not being pressed by either. Now, basically, that means that when you film with a Super 8 cartridge, you see that metal bit behind? What you're looking at is one of these. Usually it's plastic, but in these reloadables, it's metal. And this sits behind the film. And this thing interlocks with this metal bit here, and the film is exposed while basically hovering in the air between the two plates. So the claw, this bit here, is pulling the sprocket holes down one at a time. In normal Super 8 cameras, the film is exposed in the air as it goes from one side to the other. And when you're looking at a focal plane like this, just a millimeter each side is gonna have a difference. Going to make an effect on the focus of your picture. So I guess what I'm saying is that Nikon put an awful lot of work into producing a gate unlike any other Super 8 camera. This you don't get this on the Niso, on nothing. It's only on the Nikon, and maybe the R8 as well. And here's the gate. See, when you put the cartridge in, so that just fits onto there like that, and that holds there, and the film goes in between them. There we go. So that means basically the upshot is that this camera can run forwards, backwards, and do all those fancy things like dissolves, fades, and double exposures. Now, how do you do a dissolve on this thing? Well, I'm not going to do one, but I'll I'll tell you to do one. I've got the instructions here. Set the OLDE switch to OL, that's overlap, like that. Aim the camera at the first scene, press the trigger while filming, and then it will automatically stop fading out in 5.5 seconds. And then you switch this to the rewind position, and then you hit the trigger. Nothing, it won't be filming, it'll be rewinding the film. And after it's finished rewinding the film, you switch this one back to forward, and then you start filming again, and it'll film the next scene fading in automatically. It's a horrible and complicated and scary process, and I recommend you not do it. Just use the camera for what it does best, which is just to film, and film very, very nicely. Right, we've seen the dissolves, we've seen all that, we've seen the iris now. So what are we going to do about this thing stuck at f8? Okay, can we only go and film in very, very specific lighting conditions? Can we? Or can we use the exposure triangle? The exposure triangle is a nice visual way to show how the brightness of your picture is not just dependent on the aperture of the camera. You've also got the ISO of the film, and you've got the shutter speed. Now, with a lot of cameras, most Super 8 cameras, your shutter speed is locked. It's like 1/30th or 1/40th. You're stuck there. You're shit out of luck if you want to try a different shutter speed. Some of the good ones have got a couple of different shutter speed. This one, as I said, has got four different shutter angles. One is 0. When the shutter is full open at 160, that's 1/40th of a second. When it's half open, it's at 1/81st of a second, call it 1/80th. And when it's 3/4 closed, it's 1/162nd of a second. So you're going to need some pretty bright light if you do it on quarter shutter. And I'm going to show you what all these look like. In fact, let's have a look at what these look like. Let's have a look on a very bright sunny day when f8 would probably overexpose the film a bit. Let's see what it looks like when we muck about and try and change our exposure using the shutter rather than the iris, because the iris is out of action. For this, I used some very nice Fomapan R100. I tested 2 Nikons, and then I compared them. I tested them with a Canon 1014 XLS, so we'll have a look at that as well. So here we go. So this is a full shutter right here. Yeah, look, see those chairs there? They're kind of bleached out. So half shutter, quarter shutter, closed shutter. It doesn't make an awful lot of difference, to be honest. It's one stop per halving or doubling of the shutter. So half shutter, quarter shutter. I'm not sure which of those I would have used. Full shutter, half, quarter. Probably a half shutter, which would be f16, which would be Sunny 16 for ISO 100 film. So yeah, I would go for half shutter in this case. Although that's a bit dark when the sun went in. Ah, now look at this. This is the macro. Isn't that lovely? Film these little guys on using the camera's macro. Really sharp macro. Really easy to use. I love the macro on this thing. Let's have a look at the other Nikon, which also had a stuck f8. Full shutter, half shutter, quarter shutter. Yeah, I reckon the half shutter would have been the one. And the other one, another macro shot. Probably the full shutter would look better. Michael Carter said the clouds begin to show. Yes, that's true, Michael. When if you want to tell whether you're overexposing or not, like whether your sky gets bleached out, that's a real indicator. So look at the clouds again. So yeah, at half shutter you can see the clouds better. It's a bit difficult really to work out where where to fix your exposure, because like in this case, you know, you want the flowers and the grass and the trees to look good, but you don't want to bleach out the sky. Get a film with good latitude, you know. Yes, Super Cine 6100 says FOMA R100 is lovely. It is. It's a really nice reversal black and white film. I think I've developed this in Ilford LC29 for 7 minutes at 21 degrees for first developer. I bleached it using potassium permanganate bleach, and I did second developer. I just stuck it back in the Ilford for the second developer. Come out lovely. Although a bit of craziness on the left hand side there. See the clouds? Oh, anyway. In the kitchen, yeah, too dark for at f8. That's a shame. Let's compare that with the Canon 1014. So this Canon, I could actually change the aperture. I shot this at f16, 150 degree shutter, and they only got two options, which is 150 and 220, and that's the macro on the Canon. Overexposed, maybe a hair, slightly exposed. So f22 kind of did the job really. There's a wallaby. Anyway, so there's the compare the lenses. I mean, it's pretty much equivalent. I can't really see much of a difference between the Canon 1014 lens and let's see the Nikon lens. You can get a bit closer actually with the Nikon. I mean, they're pretty much, you know, top of the line lenses. What do you want from me? This side towards screen asks, would an ND filter help, or a color filter for black and white? Yes, indeed it would. If you want to stock down your film, if it's too bright at f8 and you can't change the aperture, then you could put an ND filter on. But you know, with this particular camera, why bother? You can change the shutter. The problem really comes when you're in lower light. On lower lighting, yes, that's when your only option really is to go with ISO, is to use the ISO of your film, because shutter speed on low light, you're going to be fully open. Okay, so forget that. Aperture with these cameras, f8, you're stuck there. So your only option is to change the ISO. And of course, I have filmed some scenes on color film of a couple of different ISOs, and we can see the result of that with this camera. So let's have a look at what happens when I put some films of different ISOs into this camera. Maybe we can get some low light performance out of it, even though it's stuck at f8. I have not done any color correction at all. This was color negative film. I didn't do any color correction at all. I just inverted it. So it's a straight invert from the negative. I will be showing you some corrected, quite badly corrected film later, but let's just see it without any correction so we get the true sense of the difference between 200T and 500T. Don't see a lot of difference here. Now you can see it. I'm going to pause that for a second. So this was in the evening at sunset. There's a little bit more you can see on the left, on the right. That's 500T. Not an awful lot more. That's 200T on the left. Again, okay, so this is outdoors. Yes, the 500T does a little bit better. The colors are a bit better. The exposure is a bit better in a dim light. This was indoors in the evening. I took the daylight filter off for this. And then finally, bright sunny weather. And I did this with the three different shutter angles as well. As you can see, it's getting darker there. Let's have a look at that with a bit of very, very poor correction on my part. So yeah, I used Premiere. I know people can do it on DaVinci. I'm sure it can be done a lot better, but I just want to take some of that blue away. To be honest, the difference between 200T and 500T is only one stop, basically, if you're using the daylight filter. So they're not all that different, 200 and 500. There's only one stop difference. And in bright light, you know, they both do okay. See that again, just full screen there. So that's 200T, 500T. I would have done a better job developing and color correcting this if I hadn't rushed it. But there you go. See, look. Yeah, you can use it during the day. And this Nikon, I think f8 full full open shutter was probably the best. As we close the shutter, it starts to get a bit dimmer there. So if I owned this camera, I'd still use it stuck at f8. I'd just be careful not to do any like dark indoors filming. How much was this? If you want to buy one, let's hop on eBay. Let's see how much you expect to pay for this. Right, the cheapest currently available one I could find that's working is £229. I think that one had some issues. You're looking at about £300 from Austria, 305, 306, 366. Wow, look at that! Look at that lens! Wow. Never mind. And a really good one, like a really top of the line, like quality one that in mint you're looking at a lot. That's like $535. I mean, these are probably the equivalent prices in dollars in America. If you were to go to the wonderful people at Click and Sir, and they only sell like serviced, mint, reliable, top of the line cameras. They don't even have an R10. Probably it got sold, but they do have an R8 for €800, which, you know, if you want a camera with that's guaranteed working, then, you know, why the hell not? Go to Click and Sir in Berlin. The Nikon R10. I've gone over every single part of this. Oh, the only thing really I didn't go is this. That focuses the eyepiece, and that open and closes the eyepiece. Nothing really to add to that. On the whole, extremely good camera. Heavy, definitely in the top 6, maybe even in the top 5, depending on how you feel about Nizos.